business.
Sure, how long was this place? How long was this? Is this second generation or third generation?
God, I'd say fourth or fifth. Daniel O'Connell
Cheers,
organised
gentlemen.
Daniel
To your
O'Connell
good
organised
health.
a public meeting from here.
To your good health
Did he?
and,
Yeah.
and many decades more.
So, what time frame are you looking at then?
This family are in it 150 years this year.
Well,
And there was pub before that.
So this you really go back as part of as much as history books will be written in town.
Yeah.
Sure, would this be like any out of town trade town in the square where they had the horse and carts and that kind of stuff? And
Oh yeah, they would have a live animal market
Yeah.
across the road.
yeah, in there. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Port, the same. A lot of towns are the same, anyway.
yeah,
but
they are,
yeah,
anything to do with the market.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're thinking. I've known you and I know your passion and your love for the town and the history. And the one question is that, where did you come up with the med in the tie? I know you're med in the tie.
I tell you exactly where. I tell you
Yeah.
exactly where I came from. I found myself abroad, talking about the weirdness, I suppose, or the strangeness of this musical heritage of Athy, and I bore anyone to death any chance I got about it. And then when I came back to Athy, I kind of said to myself, well, now put your money where your mouth is and do something about it. And that's more or less where I came from.
Oh, where did you start? Because it's always a hard thing. At what point do you start without offending somebody? Do you know, like
That's on Crime Watch.
How much? Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, lad.
you weren't here.
We have a direct line to the barracks here.
So how did you? Like, I mean, there's always somebody in every town who thinks they know more history than somebody else does. How did
Yeah.
you? Where did you find starting point then?
Oh, but the opposite with me, because I know very, very little about Anton. But what I do is I hear stories from people.
Yeah.
And I remember the stories.
Yeah.
And so there's always someone has a yarn about, like, for example, in June we have a concert on up in Dreamland Ballroom, and it's a young lad called Toby Lee, and Toby's granny comes from Dooley's Terrace in Athy, and I've known about Toby was 20 a few weeks ago, but I've known about Toby since he was about 6 or 7 years old, because his uncle was telling me that there's this genius of a nephew who's a guitarist,
Yeah.
and we watched him grow and grow and grow and grow, and he was the star guest on BBC Two's Hootenanny with Jules Holland
With
this
Jules
year.
Holland. Oh, that's a different level.
It's a different level.
Yeah.
He's in the Grand Ole Opry next week as the guest guitarist.
And his album is.
He's just signed a worldwide deal with Decca Records.
Yeah.
And we know him because I had a cup of tea with his uncle
Yeah.
14 years ago,
Yeah.
and we've been following the story ever since. So it comes like that.
Yeah.
This building here, Frank O'Brien's, it's got 3 plaques on it. It's got Micheál Delaney, Joe O'Neill and Chris Neal. They're 3 cousins. Micheál Delaney is famous as a historian, as a folklorist, but also an Irish language activist. His cousin Joe O'Neill was one of the first show band leaders in this area, would have played Portlaoise a lot, would have played all around. Brilliant story. The church used to close down all the venues for Easter, so all the lads would off over for Lent to England and Manchester and Edinburgh, Glasgow, and would play the 40 days of Lent in England.
Serious.
And that's Joe O'Neill there.
Yeah.
And then his cousin Chris Neal. So Joe was raised in 5 or 4 Lower St Joseph's Terrace. His next door neighbour was Chris Neal, and Chris is also his cousin. And Chris's father, an awful lot of people left here in the 1950s, went over to Manchester a lot, Birmingham, London, obviously, Durham, different places. But Chris was a kind of good songwriter, good singer-songwriter. Had a little bit of success in Radio Luxembourg in the 1960s.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And then had a couple of minor hit records, wrote a song for Cliff Richard for the Eurovision, and was kind of edging his way up the music business as he went. Then he made 3 movies as the star of 3 movies, and they were the the Confessions of a Window Cleaner, Confessions of a
I
Private
remember
Dick.
those, yes.
Yes. And
Infamous.
it's not so infamous.
Not politically correct.
No, there were
They wouldn't be meant
sexploitations.
today.
No,
Colm.
they
They wouldn't be meant
No,
today.
they wouldn't. And funny enough, he got Chris got five. I don't think he'd mind me telling this story. He got £5,000 for the film,
Yes.
or he was offered a percentage cut, and so he got the money, and it gave him the deposit for his house,
Brilliant.
and started to set him on his way.
Yeah.
He met the producer recently enough, and he went, by the way,
How did that do?
Yeah.
25 million.
Oh dear.
Very expensive house.
But anyway, that's
Yeah, that's-
but as Chris said, he knew he had his house.
Yes.
You know, he was a young man starting out with a family.
Of course.
Exactly.
You can drive yourself nuts with these things. But
Yeah,
then,
it's
but
the
then
road. It's the road not taken.
the road not exactly.
Don't be worrying about it.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
You,
didn't
can't
go down
change it.
No.
You know.
But he realizes in this experience that he's kind of more comfortable on the other side of the microphone. So he starts producing different bands, and he has this string of worldwide number ones in the 1980s. He has he's the man who discovers Sheila Easton.
Yes.
Gets Oscar nominated for A License to Kill. Not A License to Kill. What was it called? The James Bond movie that she did the music for. For Your Eyes Only. Yeah,
that's
For Your
it,
Eyes
yeah,
Only.
yes, yeah.
He produced that, and he got an Oscar nomination for that.
Wow.
He produced most Celine Dion albums. He produced a lot of Mike and the Mechanics. He produced and got a writing credit on the Living Years, which was a massive worldwide hit.
Huge.
You okay, Judith?
Could turn some lights on.
Oh
Ah.
yes.
You don't have to be sitting there in the
In the
twilight.
dark.
I spend my life in the dark, Judith.
Ah.
It looks better.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's lovely.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Very scenic now.
For insurance purposes.
Oh yes.
Oh, it's sure.
There is that. There is always the bottom line.
Yeah. So Chris, anyway, has a string of hits. My favourite is he I don't know whether he co-wrote. No, he didn't co-write, but he did produce and make into a hit record. I Could Be So Good For You, the team to Minder.
Yes.
Ah, classic.
I
Yeah.
loved Minder.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved
Yeah.
Minder.
Yeah.
So Chris is one of the minor in that, you know, he's not a household name, but
But look at his CV.
look at his CV.
You've only touched on his CV.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And here's a bizarre thing for you. So the Miami Show Band played here a lot,
Yes.
and Stephen Travers, who was the bass player in the Miami, his father's from out the road in Moon,
That's right.
and Stephen, the massacre,
Yes.
horrible, the massacre. It's the
Horrific.
50th anniversary this year.
Yeah.
So there was a whole lot of benefit concerts, and there was a benefit concert up in Dreamland Ballroom, and the band playing it were an English band, and they were called Guys and Dolls. Got a little bit of hit record. I think they'd come out of Opportunity Knox maybe.
Yeah.
And so they played here in Athy for the benefit for the Miami Show Band, and anyway, it didn't go great. The tour didn't go great, and they broke up on the return to England. Then two of them reformed as a band called Dollar, and they were produced by Chris Neal from here.
Wow.
I suppose when you meet him, is he modesty?
He is incredibly modest, and he you'd almost mistake him for a civil servant.
Wow.
And then when you look at
Like it's his job. He goes in, you know. I don't know if he did 9 to 5, but you get the impression
Yes.
he's approached very methodical. You know, he knows exactly what sound he wants. He has it imagined in his head, and that's exactly the sound he creates.
and he's an encyclopedia of what he done with all these connections.
Oh, you'd have to ask him. You have to ask him.
Have to get him in.
And here's a bizarre one for you. We have up the far side of town in the Fort Barrington Road. There was a guy living there called Aldo Nova. Aldo Nova is a Canadian rocker. He's most famous for being the person who brought Bon Jovi to fame.
Yeah.
He's always named in all those. So Aldo Nova, while living up here, wrote a song called "You and Me" for Celine Dion,
Yes.
and Chris Neal produced it from further down the town.
Where would you?
And the gas thing, what happened that song next was Hillary Clinton used it as her campaign song.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Med in the thigh.
there you go.
Literally med in the thigh.
Yeah.
Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you find that when are people shocked that well I've been living in this town for years and they've never realised the connections before, and are they still, or are you finding more connections coming
Well,
up?
I'm delighted to hear people that say people will now refer to it as a great music town.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, if that sticks, I'm happy out.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, we don't value our immigrants. You know, we don't value
Yes.
No.
those people that went off, often under a cloud.
Yes.
Often they were like maybe sometimes there was a pregnancy, or sometimes there was just
Yes.
poverty.
Yes.
We
And-
don't value that.
It might have been the
therefore-
black sheep.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Because it is hard to fit in a small town.
absolutely.
Easier now, but
yeah.
back in the day, difficult.
Yeah, and then there was a whole spate of people went off in the 80s, you know.
Yeah.
Another one, and then like nowadays, my own daughter lives in Brighton, but they're not kind of going. We'll never come home to the old sod, or you know.
Yeah.
They have a different attitude to
Yes.
distance.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
not
the,
like it was
the
years
world
ago.
the world is their village.
Yeah, exactly. Well put, you know.
Yeah, because there's not the home call anymore. That thing is,
Yes.
you know, I should run flight away, run this away.
Yeah.
We're not like distance. Years ago, in the 80s, distance was a distance.
Yeah.
You mightn't see
Yes.
somebody come back to the town for years or even
Yeah.
a generation. But are you still looking into more, or is there? Are you,
Well, on our kind of on our slate to do, we've 10 plaques yet to put up at the moment, and that could change. Like this gas, poor little Toby is too young to be considered for a plaque, and he's off conquering the world.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So we still haven't done Picture This. We still haven't done John Hurt. We still have. There's a lovely woman. Jeez, will I be able to remember her name now? She was from Brownstown. What on earth is that lady's name? Oh, having a brain freeze on it.
yeah.
That's
But
all right.
she's
We'll come to you.
She's from Brownstown, and she used to go off cycling, and she used to cycle past Burt House out the road here.
Yeah.
And she used to always stop and have a look in and say, God, you know, if I play my cards right, I could be in service in there someday.
Yes.
Anyway, one of our earliest memories is very sad. It's been evicted from the house in Brownstown.
Oh no.
And she'd talk about that a bit, you know. And but
Oh.
as you know, social welfare at the time was that your relatives took you in, or the neighbours raised
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And she got sent off to America to her sister.
Yes.
And she was a bit of a stunner.
Yes.
And there was a thing called swimsuit competitions.
Yes.
And she won all rounder.
Yes.
And she came to the notice of the modelling agencies, and she started to become a prominent model. So much so that she was the face of Pond's Cold Cream throughout the 1950s and 60s.
Oh wow.
And then she did a bit of acting. She was in Highway Patrol and these kind of TV shows.
Highway Patrol. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember it.
And she meets her husband, who she had 3 husbands, and then she marries one of them twice, and he's a very successful film producer. Very,
Yes.
very. Danziger is his name, and they're in Dublin, visiting Dublin, and they kind of fancy the idea of having a couple of horses.
Yes.
And they look in the Irish Times, and not in the Irish Times for stables. That's it, and they ring up the local. They didn't know at the time, but they ring up the local auctioneers here,
Yeah.
Doherty's, and the local auctioneer answers the phone, and he says, Danziger says, actually he rings up and he goes, Danziger here, and of course the local man says, all right, Dan, how are you?
Zinger doesn't ring a bell to me at all.
Yeah.
But he says, oh yeah, we've lovely stables here. You should
Yeah.
go down and have a look at them. And the man says, is there any property with that? And he said, oh, wait till you see it. So they drive down, and they're driving up the driveway, and there she sees Bert's house comes out of the driveway. the house she dreamed of working in as a
Wow.
child.
What's the
And in her autobiography, she's a whole
Wow.
chapter on the book
of
about Birthouse, and then
Yeah.
the last chapter is about Athy. So it's just a lovely,
That's incredible.
fairy tale almost. You
Yeah.
know?
To
It's
come
like
back into
completing the circle.
Yeah.
yeah.
But in a way, she could never, as a teenager,
envisaged.
would never have envisaged that happening
No,
to her.
no. Because
Wow.
people just go, you're fucking mad.
And I think that's lost in and what you're doing is that in towns there's so many stories or untold stories, and I think if people, it is a lot of work to do the research into
Well,
it.
it's also a pleasure.
Yeah.
Because you meet people that you mightn't meet normally. For example, there's I don't know if you remember the Divine Comedy, a guy called
Yes.
Neil Hannon. Well, Neil's granddad was one of the big industrialists in the time. They had 3 mills. They had a mill across the road there in the outside Shaws. They had a mill down at Ardree, and they had a mill out at Levistown. And this is where the stories kind of cross both class and religion. Neil's grandfather, his family was wiped out in the First World War. He lost a brother, a couple of cousins. Whole place was devastated. And like an awful lot of people at the time, he went off looking for meaning.
Yeah.
So he took holy orders in Trinity College, and was ordained, and walked away from the mill and the businesses and all. And the gas thing was, at the time, Trinity College had a mission in China and had a mission in India, and he approached Neil's grandfather, would he like to open their next mission?
Yeah.
And that's how an Athy man brought Protestantism to the Shankill Road, because he opened up the Trinity mission on the Shankill Road.
There you go.
He may have been an overachiever.
Yeah, obviously was. Obviously was.
Yeah. He'd be careful where he's told someone else.
So Neil, actually, I went up to I made arrangements with the local community first,
Yes.
rather than togging in there and just arriving at the front door.
Yes.
And they now it's closed. The mission church is closed, but they brought me around and showed me it.
Yeah.
And they're kind of proud of Neil's
course.
family being from there.
Of course.
But the thing I was going to say to you about was Neil, of course, is another Oscar nominated for
Correct.
last year's Monka movie.
Correct.
Yeah. So we've a number of. I think we have 5
And I'm right
Oscar
Saying, Colm,
nominations.
just totally
Yeah.
changing the subject. Neil is a complete cricket nut, isn't he?
Oh. We have a picture across the
Yes.
road in the library
Yes.
of his grandfather in the Athy cricket team, which we were delighted to show him when he came down to unveil the plaque.
Yeah.
That probably made his night.
It did, and his grandfather tugged out for Athy,
Yes.
because cricket was a huge
Huge.
thing here. Yeah.
Huge. It was all over the country.
Yeah.
Like where I'm from, Tip.
Oh,
It was
but
like
there, yeah.
Where it was, and funnily enough, where the hurling is strong now, it was cricket. In the 19th century, it was cricket.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of young generation wouldn't even know. I said, yes, they don't believe that. Thought I just landed in from the UK over the last few years. No, they didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a cricket team here in the 1980s and
Yeah.
90s.
Yes.
You know, and it's always had a bit of a following.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Neil, of course, made the album, and maybe made 2 albums of what you call it? It's a rule in cricket. There's something method.
The Duckworth
Lewis.
method.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Any time I heard him interview, it's like it's the way my brain works. I'm thinking, what is this? The fascination with cricket. There's something. There's obviously something in the family, and now, Colm, you've explained it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's passed down.
Yeah, I think he just I think it just suits his way. You know, he's a very gentle, contemplative type of a guy. You
Yes.
know, so you can imagine with a warm beer on a Saturday afternoon watching cricket
Yes.
rather than wrestling. I couldn't imagine him watching the wrestling, but
Yeah. Wouldn't be his.
I wouldn't think so.
Wouldn't be his cup of tea.
No. No.
It's only when you start delving into it, like that's like cricket now. I would have never even because it's only when you go to like I didn't know Tipperary would have been
Oh,
And,
yeah.
And
Tipperary,
apparently they used to
Kilkenny
hide-
as well.
And they would hide the local activists would hide the guns in the cricket gear because the British Army would never search the cricket gear.
Yep.
Wouldn't go near that. Sacred ground, that's cricket ground.
This is it. This
Yeah,
is it.
yeah.
This is it. We're on
And-
safe ground here.
Yeah, they were on.
This is
Yeah.
it.
But Neil's BAFTA nominated. Of course, he famously wrote "My Lovely Horse" for.
Yes.
But and he wrote the music too, which I think we might be seeing a cover of soon with this new band of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Farewell and thank you for all the fish.
Yes.
So then across the road we have Johnny Marr's plaque, and Johnny is twice nominated, once winner of Oscar because he's the guitar player in Hans Zimmer's orchestra.
Yes.
When he's recording. When he's not recording, his son is the permanent guitarist in Hans Zimmer's
Oh my
orchestra.
word.
Yeah.
Like father, like son.
My father.
Black
well,
cat, black
funny,
kitten.
funny you
Black
say
cat,
that.
black kitten.
Hans Zimmer was played in Dublin recently,
Mm.
and he introduces the orchestra, and he came to the guitarist and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Manchester's second best guitarist."
After he's dead. Oh dear.